Hi everyone, I'm Volker and I'm the game developer behind Kohlrabi Starship, a cozy farming game with space travel, cute animals, romance and time jumps. You can already wishlist it on Steam. I've been working on the game for a while now, and one of the very first things I put into the game were these sketched black and white character animations. Since then, I never improved them because I knew one day I wanted to replace them with a character creator. And now the day has finally come. This video is sponsored by Brilliant, more on them later. I really love character creators in games, and I can sometimes spend hours in them before getting into the actual gameplay. It's just a lot of fun to play around with the options, the hairstyles, outfits and colors. I love the character creators in Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate 3. It is this magic feeling of not just playing a given character, but actually putting yourself into the world. And I believe most of us don't recreate our real selves, but instead create these awesome characters that we want to be on that day, and sometimes including an awesome backstory we come up with and a whole personality to try out. It just comes with a lot of role-playing fun. So there was no question for me that Kohlrabi Starship will have a character creator as well. Is well worth the extra effort and development time. Of course, Kohlrabi Starship is a cozy 2D game, and the character creator won't let you create realistic 3D Dragonborn and Githyanki, but instead will be more cartoonish. But the spirit remains, and I'm excited about all the options I want to add in the future. Of course, one of the first things I added was a cat ear hairstyle, or wolf ears if you squint your eyes. If we are living in a far future with advanced technology and space travel, who's to say someone didn't invent a cat ear gene modification? Anyhow, so how do you go from basic hand-drawn animations to being able to replace hair and clothes though? Let's say I just create a second version of all the animation frames and redraw them with different hair. For a different head, that would then mean I already have 4 versions. And then for a different shirt, that's 8. For a third hairstyle, we get 12 total variations. You can see that it's adding up very fast. So let's do some quick and simple math. I want you to be able to choose between at least 10 hairstyles, 4 face shapes, 10 heads, 3 eye shapes, 10 shirts and 2 pants, at least. And I think that's a reasonable number of options, and even on the lower end compared to many games. And this would already lead to 24,000 different combinations. Imagine having to redraw all these frames 24,000 times. And we haven't even talked about color choices yet. I would go insane and die an early death. Clearly, we cannot go with traditional hand-drawn frames. We need a different solution. So instead, we are going to decompose the character into different layers for different body parts. One for head, the hair, the facial expression, the face, the arms, the upper body and the legs. This will allow us to exchange body parts without touching the rest of the character. We then animate each body part individually and therefore have to redraw them individually. Extracting all the different body parts and drawing them in all the different movements and orientations was very tedious work. It took me quite a few days. I like to do this type of work when I'm traveling with trains, when I'm trapped in my seat for many hours anyway, and there's too many distractions to work on things where I really have to focus. So I finished these when I was visiting Godot by train in October, and the time flew by much faster. Here you can see all the different leg frames, but fortunately for most other body parts we can reuse one frame in a lot of different animations. And so we need a lot less upper body face frames, for example. Now, after drawing the individual body parts, I had to puzzle them together again to recreate the animations. And there are a lot of them. At this point, it also becomes a bit tricky. Depending on where the character looks, I want the hands or the tools to be in front or behind the character. But this is easily fixed by just having 2 layers for these, in the front and at the back, and then only show the one that's needed for the current frame. For each sprite layer, I use the whole sheet for that body part as a sprite, but Godot lets me define which part of the sprite is shown. And so when animating the body, I can simply change this display region instead of changing the sprite texture. So this simple walking animation now became this whole mess. You can see, it's a ridiculous amount of work. It's tedious, it's repetitive. You might ask, is this really worth it? Is this really more efficient than drawing new animation sheets for each new hair or shirt option? Absolutely, yes, it is. And the reason is that we only have to do this work once. Once the animations are set up, we never have to touch them again. Since we collected each body part into one sheet, the only work left for each new added hairstyle, for example, is to draw a new sheet and replace the texture in the correct sprite layer. The code for the character creator becomes rather simple as well. At the top level, you just decide for the colors and for the number of the shirt, for example. The code links that to all the layers in the character that correspond to that part and replaces the texture and the color in the material shader. For a shirt, we need to change the textures for the arms and upper body, or for the hairstyle, the texture for the front and back layer for hair. And that's all. So far, I haven't talked about color yet, and I use these very saturated, weird colors for the clothes. But I did so because I can now simply reuse the shader that I had already written for the cats, and which lets you replace a color in a sprite with any color of your choice. Infinite color possibilities, or rather 16,777,216 color choices to be more precise. But sometimes unlimited choices are not a good thing. If you are offered 1,000 choices for marmalade at the store, how do you even decide? It can easily become a super frustrating task. If you just have 3 choices, it is easy to choose, while also being happy that you do have a choice. I hope I'm making sense here. The point is, I decided to not give unlimited color options in the character creator UI. Instead, I offer pre-selection. If you are not an artist, it can sometimes be very difficult to create the color you want from RGB sliders or a color square. And that's especially true for skin colors. So I did the work for you. But I also didn't lock the colors. And if you truly want to go crazy, there's this randomizer button here that still can give you any random color. I also want to allow the player to be able to change the colors later in the game by dyeing them with items, so you can make different color choices later on. Another decision I had to make was to add an option to choose your gender or not. But since this would not have any influence on how you look, and I didn't want to lock any hairstyles or face shapes to a single gender, I decided to just leave it out. Let me know what you think and if this is a choice that is important to you in a game. All in all, compared to the original sketchy animations, you can now also play as a guy, you can finally choose colors, and there's a lot of cool hats. They are the easiest part to replace at the moment, because they only need to be drawn for the 4 different perspectives. And even though at the moment I'm focusing on finishing the mechanics and not adding content, I couldn't help myself but draw a variety of hats. And hey, subdividing the character like we just did also gives you the bald hairstyle for free. Very good. I'm really curious what your favorite part of a character creator is, and if there's something you've always been missing or that you would like to see in Kohlrabi Starship. Because right now, as you can see, I only added very few basic choices, but I'm so excited to add more options for you. If you have dreamed about making your own game, but are not sure where to start or would like to feel more confident in your coding skills first, let me introduce you to this video sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data analysis, programming, and AI. Brilliant will teach you how to problem solve and develop a deeper understanding of underlying concepts instead of simply memorizing a programming language, which is super useful whether you code with GDScript or C# and use Unity or Godot or Unreal Engine. I also really like that it's very easy to start with Brilliant. You can fit the short lessons easily into any busy schedule, and Brilliant will encourage you to come back every day. Imagine how fast that adds up to building real knowledge. Brilliant also has a lot of different courses, and they are adding more all the time. They not only teach coding, but also foundations of math or AI. But most importantly for game development, they have great courses to develop your mind to think like a programmer and begin writing complex programs to build games. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/volkardev or scan the QR code on screen. Or you can click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. I also want to send a ginormous thank you to all my patrons and especially to my top Patreon supporters, Keegan Once and Valhakin Oscuris. I'm really grateful, and you give me the extra time to work on Kohlrabi Starship and hopefully carry it over the finish line before the funding runs out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.